Alright, before I get to Impact, I'm just going to touch on this again for a minute because it's my YouTube page and I can do what I want. There's a couple of different versions of the story floating around about how and why Roxy got fired from TNA, but the one thing that everybody seems to agree on, more or less, is that Raka Khan is the one chiefly responsible for Roxy losing her job. I have a new column up on TNAWrestlingNews.com right now that goes into the whole situation in detail. You know, it's on the main page right now, so you can just go there and read all about it. TNAWrestlingNews.com. And once again, the petition to help get Roxy her job back is at www.ipetitions.com/petition/we-want-Roxy. And if you're interested, there's also a petition to get Raka Khan fired. You can find that one at www.ipetitions.com/petition/FIIREHERE050609. We now return you to our regularly scheduled programming. Alright, Impact. This week was kind of a disappointment to me, actually. And not because it was a bad show necessarily. It wasn't a terrible show. I mean, there were some good things about it, but it was a step down from what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks. And there were some important things that, while not altogether bad, were just not as good as they should have been. And for me, the biggest offender was the main event. This 10-man tag team war, main event Mafia versus the front line of Jeff Jarrett, Mick Foley, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, and Christopher Daniels. You can call this the biggest match in Impact history all you want, but just calling it that does not make it so. First of all, TNA has the biggest match in Impact history about every 2 months. And more often than not, they manage to screw it up by making the same mistake over and over again. You can hype it up however you want, but when you present it like this, it's not going to matter. Call it the most important main event in the history of your company, but when you only give it 10 minutes, including a commercial break, and the match doesn't deliver, you're basically telling the fans that it's not. Okay, the fans are not stupid. You can't tell us that a match is important, but not present it like it's important and expect the fans to buy it. We will not fall for that. And sure enough, the match was the lowest rated quarter of the second hour. And the thing is, it wasn't even that bad of a match. I mean, it wasn't a disaster or anything. It was actually fairly good. But a match of this importance should have been great. And it wasn't. Because the main event Mafia guys once again controlled the action for most of the match. And I have said this so many times and it never seems to sink in. The young guys are the ones who need to dictate the action during these matches because the young guys are the ones who can actually work. With the exception of Kurt Angle, when the main event Mafia guys control the pace of the match is never as good as it should be because the old guys are slow as hell. I'm getting tired of saying this. And, the whole thing wasn't bad. It just really didn't do anything for me because it wasn't as good as it should have been. And another thing that's bugging me is this announcement of a Knockouts Monsters Ball match at Sacrifice. Knockouts Monsters Ball? Why? I mean, okay, no, really. Okay, this has no context. Okay, how and why did this match get made? What is the reason in the storyline for this match to exist? There isn't one. Okay, plus, if you look at the Knockouts roster right now, most of those women are going to be completely out of their element in a Monsters Ball, and the one most suited for this match, Awesome Kong, will not even be in it. I mean, not to sound negative or anything, but this match could very well be an absolute disaster. I mean, are they really going to put women like Velvet Sky and Madison Rayne and some Jobber Bolt in a match that has a history of being incredibly violent to the point where people get put through flaming tables? I mean, seriously, how is that going to work? Okay, who's going to take the big bump off the stage onto a million thumbtacks? It ain't going to be Raka Khan. She's not going to do it. I think we all know that. Okay, this sounds like a really, really bad idea to me, because even if they throw in Sarah Stock and Ayako Hamada in there too, I just don't think they have the right mix of talent to pull this off. I mean, seriously, why is this match happening? There's no reason for it. Now, I do appreciate that TNA likes to keep their women's division prominent by giving them 2 matches on pay-per-views instead of 1 normally, but it goes back to what Bill and Doug have said about this in the past. If the Knockouts don't have anything relevant happening at the moment, then just keep them off the pay-per-view for that month. So those are my main gripes this week. So let's talk about some good stuff. Oh, Christopher Daniels. Loving Christopher Daniels right now. I love what they're doing with him. Personally, I would like to see more of him at the top of the card fighting the main event Mafia along with AJ, but this whole Is Daniels suicide thing that they're doing right now has been very, very good. I mean, it's putting some actual focus on the X Division for a change, and it's being done with promos instead of just random spot fest matches, which was a problem I was having with the X Division for a long time. But in this angle so far, we've had Daniels getting to cut some great promos. The Motor City Machine Guns have been the most entertaining thing about the show 2 weeks straight. And thank you, Christopher Daniels. Thank you for saying what I've been saying for the last year. That Jay Lethal's Black Machismo gimmick has turned him into an absolute, utter, freaking joke. I'm loving this storyline right now, and I'm assuming they're doing it because Kaz is ready to come back as Suicide. So with Daniels back, with Amazing Red back, and now with Kaz back too, the X Division is starting to look a lot more interesting than it did a few months ago. Also, really enjoying this tag team title tournament. I love the shot that they took at Jim Ross. You know how he said that he didn't think tag team wrestling was going to be made important again anytime soon, and then turning his words against him, with Brother Ray saying that if tag team wrestling is not a priority in the company that JR works for, then shame on them. That is exactly the kind of stuff that TNA should be doing when they reference the WWE. And I think it's great that they've gone really above and beyond over the last few months to really highlight their tag team division, which is something that the WWE never does anymore. Basically, WWE's entire tag team division right now is the Colognes and Priceless. That's it. TNA's tag team division blows them out of the water, and no one can deny that. And if TNA can continue to go more in that direction, accentuating the things that make them different from the competition, instead of trying to be just WWE light, that will really help TNA regain its identity as the pro wrestling alternative. So, taking the whole show into account this week, there were a lot of good things about Impact, but the biggest part was them building up to this 10-man tag team war main event, the quote-unquote the biggest match in Impact history, and the way they presented the match did not work well enough for me, which really just kind of brought down the whole show. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was decent, but it should have been great, and it wasn't, and that was the problem. It just kind of killed the whole show for me. So, essentially, I'm giving a good show a bad review. Try to wrap your mind around that one.